Not everyone is waiting till the trade deadline to make their big moves, as the Calgary Flames and Montreal Canadiens have just completed a major trade involving Tyler Toffoli. We'll get into the details right now. Hey everybody, so we've got major news this afternoon as there was just a big trade between the Calgary Flames and Montreal Canadiens. This is the kind of thing that we were expecting around the trade deadline. Well, the Flames were not waiting around for deadline day. They are getting it done early, acquiring Tyler Toffoli in exchange for a pretty large package going back to the Montreal Canadiens. So let's get into it here. Let's take a look at overall what this trade entails to the Flames. We have Tyler Toffoli, obviously scoring winger, going to Montreal in exchange. We have fourth line forward Tyler Pitlick. We have prospect Emil Heineman, a 2022 first round pick that is top 10 protected, but Flames aren't going to be drafting in the top 10, so that first-round pick is going to be going, in all likelihood, to Montreal. And a fifth-round pick. Now, I've seen some say that the fifth-round pick is 2024. Cap-Friendly here posted 2023. Either way, it's a future fifth-round pick, and that's not really one of the main pieces involved here. But Pitlick is a fourth liner. His brother, Rem, is already part of the Canadiens organization, so Tyler goes there as well. Emil Heineman and the first round pick are really the two major pieces going back to the Montreal Canadiens. Obviously, anytime you can get a first, that is huge. That's a quality draft pick where you can get a quality player with in that draft. And then Emil Heineman is a really interesting young forward prospect who's right now playing over in Sweden and could end up becoming a pretty darn good player. So we'll take a look at it here. First of all, I want to talk about Tyler Toffoli. So, first up here, Tyler Toffoli, 29 years old, right wing, left wing, plays both sides either way. Not really having a great year with 9 goals and 26 total points in 37 games with Montreal this season. But Montreal is absolutely terrible this season. So, it's really not all that surprising that he's not putting up big numbers. We look at what he did last year with the Canadiens in 52 games. He had 28 goals in 52 games. We know that when he's on a good team, he can produce. He had multiple 20-plus goal seasons in LA. He had a 130-plus goal season in LA. And we know that he's a quality top 6 winger who can put the puck in the net, especially when he has good players around him. This is a big addition for the Calgary Flames. What they're giving up, Tyler Pitlick, I mean, he's a 30-year-old depth forward. He's been playing on the fourth line. He's only played 25 games this season, doesn't have a goal, only has 2 points. He's really kind of a defensive-minded forward, and when we look here, he's had a couple seasons where he's hit 20 points throughout his career, but for most of his career, he really hasn't really done much offensively. He had a 20-point year in Philadelphia. That dropped down to 11 points last year in Arizona, and then only 2 points this year with Calgary. Tyler Pitlick is not a big loss for the Calgary Flames at all. He's pretty much just a depth forward who they were able to move on, and it was pretty expendable. The big player that the Canadiens got outside of obviously the draft pick, but the big player that they got is this kid right here. Emil Heineman, 20-year-old winger, 6'1", 185 pounds. He was originally drafted in the second round, 43rd overall by the Florida Panthers back in 2020. And now, obviously, he is a prospect for the Calgary Flames. And if we look at what he's been able to do, this season, he's playing in the SHL. He's playing in the SHL this season, which is the Swedish Elite League. 36 games played. He's got 11 goals, 16 points. That's pretty good for a 20-year-old. You know, that's not like, it's a lot different than playing junior. You know, like these guys don't usually light it up over in these European leagues because they're playing with grown men and they don't really get a chance to get the big ice time, the power play time, all of that they do. That they do over in the Canadian Junior League or playing in college in the U.S., things like that. So You never really usually see these big numbers from young prospects playing in the SHL. Last season, he played in the SHL for 43 games. He had 13 points, 7 goals, 6 assists. That's a pretty solid season. So he's the big prospect here. Emil Heineman is the big prospect here that the Montreal Canadiens really wanted and obviously were able to get. So all in all, looking at this deal, obviously from a Montreal standpoint, your season is over. You stink this year. You're not even close to being in playoff contention. They're pretty much going into a rebuild, and they know it. So they're able to move Toffoli, who does have a term on his contract. This is another key point. This is not a rental of Tyler Toffoli just for the rest of this season, but he has term on his contract. So that makes even more sense for the Calgary Flames, who will not only have him this year, but have him next year as well. Which plays a big role in, how much a player is worth. A rental is worth less than somebody with term. Somebody with term, you're able to get a bigger package for, usually in return. So, from Montreal's standpoint here, obviously, they're going into a rebuild. They really like this Emil Heineman prospect. They wanted him. They also get a first-round pick out of it. Pitlick is just somebody to take on for a roster spot. Not really a big deal. And then the 5th round pick is just kind of a throw-in. 5th round picks rarely actually become anything at the NHL level, but it's another pick that you got, and maybe you can get lucky and hit on a 5th rounder. And every year there's a few. It's not many, but there's always a few in those late rounds that end up kind of developing into something really good that you weren't expecting, and that could be the case. So it's another pick at least, but the first and Heineman are the real big additions here for the Montreal Canadiens. For the Calgary Flames, on the other side of things, I mean, this is an all-in move, and they should be all-in. They're having a great season. They're trying to win the Pacific Division. They're right up there with Vegas in the standings, fighting for that top spot in the Pacific. They're getting a great goaltending from Jacob Markstrom, who automatically improves this team's chances in the playoffs with his goaltending ability. They're having a really solid year overall. They needed some more scoring because Andrew Mangiapane started the year on fire and is really cooled off after the first few months. So they needed to add another scorer. They're getting great production out of Johnny Gaudreau and Matthew Tkachuk and Elias Lindholm, their top guys that they're reliant on, but they don't have much secondary scoring after that. They didn't have enough coming from their second and third lines offensively. Well, add in Tyler Toffoli, and there you go. Now you've got a big scoring addition for the Calgary Flames, which is an area that they desperately needed to improve. So it certainly makes sense for the Flames. And also, I love the fact that it's not a rental. If you're going to give up this much as the Flames, this wouldn't have been worth it if Toffoli was a rental, but because he's signed beyond this year, that is another huge plus for the Calgary Flames. So all in all, I do like this deal for Calgary. They obviously get something that they needed, and that is another scorer, somebody who can put the puck in the net. Now we're just going to have to wait and see how Toffoli does. He only had 9 goals so far this year, but he was playing on the worst team in the league. Now that you get him with some talent around him, I think we're going to see Toffoli putting the puck in the net a lot more. Honestly, I think he probably doubles his goal total at least from now through the rest of the season. He has 9 so far. I think he's going to have at least 9 over the course of the rest of the regular season with Calgary. And maybe he pops off and gets another 12 or 15 goals and it really becomes a big-time producer for the Flames. That's definitely a possibility with his talent. For Montreal, obviously, I don't hate this either. They're able to get a first-round pick out of it, which is always good. Anytime you can acquire a first and you're a rebuilding team, that's huge. And they also are really high on Heineman, the prospect that they got. So they got a good prospect. They got a first-round pick. They got Toffoli's contract out of there and some more cap space to work with. And all in all, I think this is a solid deal where both teams kind of get something that they need out of it. But for the Flames, this is a big addition for the Calgary Flames, especially this early on before the trade deadline, where Toffoli's going to have some more time to get comfortable and acquainted with his new roster and new lineup, and then can really be firing on all cylinders come playoff time, which is the most important time of the year, obviously, especially for the Flames, who are looking to make a run this year. So there you have it, everybody. Big trade today. Tyler Toffoli to the Calgary Flames. Going back to Montreal, we've got a first-round pick, Emil Heineman, young prospect from Sweden, Tyler Pitlick, and a fifth-round draft pick as well. But we'll see how it works out in the long term, but I think Calgary made a big addition in an area that they desperately needed, and Montreal has started their rebuild. So with that, like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media. All those links are down in the description. If you'd like to further support the channel, the links to our merchandise store, memberships, and donations are down in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys soon.